So Far Cry 4 is set in the Himalayas, in a small country nestled somewhere between the borders of India and China. It's a place we call Kirat. So it's a place that we made for Far Cry 4. It's based on a lot of reference and inspiration from the Himalayas, from countries like Nepal and from Bhutan, and generally inspired by the landscape, the environment, the ecosystems, the animals, but also like the history and myths and like laws and legends of that part of the world, because there's some fantastic source material there.
Breathe. I'll do the talking.
What engaged people was the fact that they could tell their own stories, and like the open world was kind of a canvas that we gave people to like find their own stories and tell their own experiences. When we were making Far Cry 4, like the first thing we thought about was where's the game going to be? Who will the hero be? Who will the antagonist be? Let's make sure we fill it with stories that people can find and tell themselves. So we picked somewhere that had like thousands and thousands of years of history and myths and legends, and there are even the most obscure things. Like we made sure that all of the collectibles, the things that we fill up the world with, that they're all part of the lore and the myth and the history of places like Nepal. So we take a lot of inspiration, but then we give it our own kind of twist. So it's unique for us in Far Cry 4.
What's happening?
Shh. कहाँ से आ रहे हो? पटना बॉस. पटना. पटना में क्या है?
First person or persona that we figured out was Kirat, and that became the foundation for everything. So after that we found a hero who fit into that world. We found an antagonist who would be an interesting conflict against the hero and the place. And then the kind of story and the kind of experience it would be, and everything is basically built from this foundation of the open world, which is essentially, it's the same for the gameplay systems. Like the story is built on the foundation of Kirat, and the gameplay is all built on the foundation of an open world. In Far Cry 4, you play AJ Gale. So he's a young guy he was born in Kirat. Both of his parents were from Kirat, but he left when he was pretty young, like 3-4 years old, and he hasn't been back since. He doesn't really know too much about the place, and his mother died, and her final wish was that he goes back to Kirat and takes her ashes to a sacred place and scatters her ashes, which is on top of a mountain. So obviously, as you saw at the Ubisoft presser yesterday, like the first 5 minutes of the game, it's AJ, you stepping into AJ's shoes, traveling on that bus on the rickety mountain road to try and get through the border. So yeah, it was actually Troy Baker, and we didn't go looking for him. He was one of the guys who was in the casting call, and we saw his performance, and it was like he immediately had the confidence and charisma.
We have a party waiting for you, but I don't think I know your name. Who is this?
Vaas was very much a product of his environment. You could tell that the Islands of Insanity had really made Vaas who he is and everything he did, whereas Pagan Min is the master of the environment. Like he made Kirat what it is today. So he isn't at the mercy of this place. This place is at the mercy of him. Like he's in charge. He took over, he invaded like an outsider, he came in, he murdered everyone who stood in his way, called himself king, puts himself on the money, like his face is on the money, his face is on posters. As he moves through the world, you can hear his propaganda on the radio. Like it's clear that this guy at least has a semblance of control at an official level. But what's interesting about him when you meet him, he's actually like very charismatic, very charming, which is obviously like that's a large part of Troy's performance. So that when he talks to you, he kind of seems reasonable, and you're like, this is actually like, he's a nice guy. And then he stabs someone in the neck with a pen, and you're like, my God, this is horrible. And then you realize that he's a cat, and you're the cat's new favorite toy. And it's just a matter of time before he gets bored and snaps your neck.
Picture right into the camera. There we are. Awesome.